welcome to TV Africa News. This is Africa Today. My name is Najima Lima, but first are the headlines. NRM summons all the new elected MPs for a retreat in Chankwanzi. Government proposes to drop OTT under the new excise duty bill of 2021. Suspected ADF militia killed 25 in new Eastern DR Congo massacre. Southern African leaders discuss Mozambique's security situation. And in sports, wrestling makes a comeback in Senegal after a year-long wait. Now the news in detail. The National Resistance Movement, NRM, has organized a 3-week retreat for its newly elected members of parliament at the Leadership Training Institute in Chankwanzi. This was announced by Deputy Secretary General Richard Todong in a press conference held at the NRM Secretariat in Kampala. Our reporter Nalugo has more.
Speaking to the media in Kampala, NRM Deputy Secretary General Richard Todong said the current members of parliament who may have been re-elected will not attend the retreat because they have to attend parliamentary plenary sessions whose business must go on.
The timetable of Parliament and the Speaker chaired the meeting, and it was from Parliament that we were advised that the current members of Parliament might not be able to attend because constitutionally there is a constitutional deadline that they need to have in passing the national budget. And therefore the Parliament cannot sit minus a deputy or the Speaker. And because it was advised by the Parliamentary Commission where the speaker sit, we took it as if that the Speaker and the Deputy will not be able to attend the retreat because they have to conclude the business of Parliament as mandated by the National Constitution.
The training is targeting 243 members of Parliament with 27 members of the Central Executive Committee SEC and 6 members of the East African Legislative Assembly. The training is aimed at orienting the newly elected MPs into the NRM ideology.
The core objective for the organizing the leadership retreat is to ideologically reorient the national resistance movement leadership to enable them to refocus on the socio-economic transformation of Uganda within the broader context of the survival of the African race given the current global pressures and challenges.
The retreat will be held in 3 phases, where the third phase will be opened by the NRM National Chairman, President Yoweri Museveni, on the 15th of April 2021, which will be more of the members of the NRM caucus. Participants will report on Wednesday, 7th April 2021 at Kololo Ceremonial Grounds for accreditation and COVID-19 testing. Nalugo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Moving on, government has proposed to abolish the payment of over-the-top services OTT under the Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2021. The bill, scheduled for tabling on the floor of Parliament on Thursday by the Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaija, also proposes the reintroduction of excise duty at a rate of 12% on internet data. Our reporter Kachanchu has more.
According to the audit firm PricewaterhouseCoopers, the bill exposes exclusion for data used for the provision of medical education services. The over-the-top services or social media tax was first introduced in 2018 and caused a nationwide uproar and protests led by Kyadondo East Member of Parliament Robert Kyagulanyi. Sections of the public then demanded a reconsideration of the Excise Duty Act 2018 with a view of removing the 200 shillings over-the-top tax that came into effect on July 1st, 2018. The new proposal by the government to repeal the 200 shillings tax follows last year's Ugandans' revelation to Parliament's Finance Committee about plans to drop the over-the-top tax and instead impose a direct tax on mobile data. The revelation was made by the then Uganda Revenue Authority Commissioner General, Ms. Doris Akol, who underscored the need to have the tax policy reviewed since it was not performing well. Ms. Akol said that proposing to amend Schedule 2 of the Excise Duty Act to look at possibly putting excise duty on data, this would counteract the effect of OTT and make it a bit more efficient to collect tax on data instead of the OTT, which is highly embedded and is not performing well. In July 2019, Uganda Revenue Authority reported a collection of only 49.5 billion shillings out of the targeted 284 billion shillings from OTT. This meant that Uganda Revenue Authority was unable to collect 234 billion from this tax measure, a shortfall of 83% from the estimates. According to the Uganda Revenue Authority, many Ugandans resorted to using virtual private networks, VPN, and wireless networks in their offices to avoid paying the tax. For OTT, every Ugandan using social media platforms like Facebook and WhatsApp was expected to pay 200 shillings daily. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
Away from that, suspected ADF militia fighters have killed 25 people in a new massacre in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo on Wednesday. Nahabwe reports.
North Kivu Provincial Governor Kali Nzanzu Kasivita said fighters attacked Manyama Moliso village in the restive Beni region late on Tuesday night, and the army intervened, killing 2 assailants. Manyama Moliso is a small village located in remote forests in the Beni region, close to boundary with Ituri province. A historically Ugandan Islamist group, the Allied Democratic Forces, is the bloodiest of scores of armed militias that roam eastern DRC, many of them a legacy of 2 regional wars in the 1990s. The ADF is linked to the so-called Islamic State group, the United States said earlier this month. According to the Kivu Security Tracker, an NGO that monitors violence in the DRC is troubled. The group has killed more than 1,200 civilians in the Beni area alone since 2017. DR Congo's army said it had reached out to the militaries of neighboring countries to help neutralize armed groups in the troubled east. According to the Congo Research Group, a monitoring project with New York University, a Rwandan military delegation led by Armed Forces Chief of Staff Jean Bosco Kazura discreetly flew to Chisansha on March 15th for talks on military cooperation. Relations between the DRC and its neighbors, especially Rwanda, have been stormy. The DRC has accused Rwanda of seeking to destabilize it, while Rwanda has charged the DRC with being a rare base for armed opposition groups, including the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda.
Let's take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Right to Know. Villagers living near the Okavango Delta have been warned that their livelihoods are at risk after Canadian company Econ Africa bought licenses of the Namibian government to conduct investigative oil drilling across the country and Botswana. We have more.
The company, according to British broadcaster Sky News, believes the area could contain one of the world's biggest oil fields, and uncovering it could completely transform the country and potentially make it one of the wealthiest in the world. The oil is thought to be situated especially in the Kavango Basin, a large area which covers most of Namibia and Botswana, but also Angola, South Africa, Zambia and Zimbabwe. Parts of the basin are also home to some of the world's most beautiful unspoiled landscapes, a vast array of exotic wildlife, some at risk of extinction, and hundreds of species of birds. Econ Africa could expand the number of oil drilling sites in the area and build vast infrastructure to support their plans if their belief about the size of the oil field turns out to be true. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
Civil society activists from the port city of Sousse in Tunisia gathered on Thursday to rally in front of the Italian embassy in Tunis against 600 containers of hazardous and toxic waste from Italy. Let's take a look.
The demonstration was organized to demand the repatriation to Italy of 282 containers of Italian waste still blocked at the port of Sousse. The activists protested by carrying garbage bags loaded with bouquets of flowers and chanted slogans such as "Tunisia is not the trash of Italy." Madi Ben Ghazala, a member of the Sousse Municipal Council, said that there was no social justice without environmental justice. The activists also held up signs in Italian and criticized the negligence of the authorities in both countries and the corruption that is rampant in this area. The scandal led to the prosecution of the port's head of customs and the resignation of the country's environment minister and arrest of 8 people over the matter.
Moving on, the presidents of Zimbabwe and Botswana met in Harare on Wednesday as Southern African states rushed to craft a response to the worsening security situation in Mozambique. We have more. The regional bloc is said to be preparing a military intervention in Mozambique's northern Cabo Delgado region, where militant violence has been raging since 2017. Last week, armed fighters overran the coastal town of Palma, killing dozens of civilians and sending thousands fleeing for safety. President of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, who is also the head of the regional bloc SADC's peace and security organ, said that President Masisi, the current chairperson of the Troika, briefed him about the security situation in the region with particular emphasis on what is happening in Cabo Delgado. On his part, Botswana President Mogwesi Masisi said the bloc was developing a response to help Mozambique deal with its security challenges. Away from that, a community's worst fear was realized when Jefferson Circuit Court judge determined that Ken Madden, who raped and assaulted an 8-year-old black girl, is mentally incompetent to stand trial. Let's have more.
The white man Ken Madden is accused of raping and assaulting an 8-year-old girl and stealing her iPad after beating and having his way with fracturing her skull with a shovel in an August 2019 attack in Louisville's California neighborhood. Jefferson Circuit Court Judge Annie O'Conwell determined that the rapist Madden is also unlikely to regain competency in the foreseeable future and said that she would issue a written ruling soon. By law, given the finding of the incompetency, his charges will eventually be dismissed since people of color are always not favored by the white-controlled system. Last month, a psychiatrist from the Kentucky Correctional Psychiatric Center in La Grange testified that Madden is mentally competent to stand trial. Dr. Timothy Allen argued that Madden, who's been repeatedly institutionalized and hospitalized through most of his life, has learned to manipulate the system, and much of his bizarre behavior documented by evaluators just to draw a reaction from his caretakers.
Moving on still, Myanmar's military junta has expanded an internet shutdown, further stifling access to information in the country, where hundreds of people have been killed and disappeared following a coup in February. We have more. Mobile data, which is the main source of internet access in Myanmar, has been cut for 18 days across the country, while a wider shutdown has been imposed every night for almost 50 days. In a statement released on Thursday, the UN Security Council expressed deep concern at the rapidly worsening situation in Myanmar and said it strongly condemned the use of violence against peaceful protesters and the deaths of hundreds of civilians, including women and children. On Thursday, prior to the imposition of new internet restrictions, protesters called for a flower strike at bus stops where demonstrators killed by security forces had departed on their last journeys. At least 535 people have been killed by the military since the coup, according to the Association for Political Prisoners, while more than 2,500 people have been detained. Let's once again take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back once again. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, billed as the continent's largest train manufacturing plant, South Africa's Gibele is building the country's next fleet of high-tech trains to avoid looting as it was experienced during the nationwide COVID-19 lockdown, leaving trains at a standstill. Let's take a look.
South Africa's railway infrastructure has been ravaged during coronavirus lockdown, with thieves plundering anything from cables and handrails to bricks and doors. In the strictest months of confinement last year, looters went to work on unguarded stations and railway infrastructure, making off with almost anything that could be ripped off or cut down and carted off. More than 80% of the country's train stations have been vandalized, according to the state-owned railway operator Passenger Railway Agency of South Africa. Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula blamed the looting on collapse of security, but vowed to crack down on the problem with the help of a scheme to recruit locals as guards backed by police.
Recent discussions between Malagasy President Andry Rajoelina and members of Madagascar's National Academy of Medicine have resulted in the decision to have the nation officially join the World Health Organization-led COVAX program in a move to procure COVID-19 vaccines for Madagascar's population. We have more.
The Malagasy President Andry Rajoelina said that the decision taken by Madagascar to join World Health Organization-led COVAX program will not affect the ongoing distribution of the local and internationally controversial anti-coronavirus remedy, COVID Organics. The Malagasy government will now have to take the challenge of orchestration with the newly decided large-scale operation, in particular the logistics of putting in place the cold chain essential for the conservation of the vaccines. The Malagasy National Academy of Medicine recommends kicking off the campaign with healthcare workers. Madagascar reports 24,426 confirmed COVID-19 cases with 418 deaths and almost 21,908 recoveries. TV Africa News, Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting.
And in sports, training has resumed after a year of coronavirus-related restrictions that had stopped Senegalese wrestlers from practicing their sports. Our reporter Katende has more.
Wrestling in West African nation is a country's old traditional rooted in harvest festivals and it draws functional following. Hulking fighters dressed into line clothes face off in packed stadiums, performing mystic rituals in the sun before going toe to toe. On Sunday, the first major bout since the start of the pandemic will take place in 20,000-seater stadium just outside Dakar. Emel Sane, 42, a former national champion once crowned king of the arenas, who is hoping to make a comeback in his match against fighter known as Lac 2, said that the fight is of huge importance to him. Gassan Begiu, the fighter promoter, told journalists that there had not been a clash for this level for years.
Now, before we end our news bulletin today, let's take a recap of our top stories. NRM summons all the new elected MPs for a retreat in Chankwanzi. Government proposes to drop OTT under the new excise duty bill of 2021. Suspected ADF militia killed 25 in new Eastern DR Congo massacre. Southern African leaders discuss Mozambique security situation. And in sports, wrestling makes a comeback in Senegal after a year-long wait. That was the news. Thank you for watching, and please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.
This is Africa, and that was the news.